we want to talk about the breaking news that came out today. Josh Jacobs agreed to a 1-year deal worth $12 million with the Raiders. Mike, I'm going to let you sort of spearhead this. This is pertaining to your team, and I really want you to talk about, how you're feeling as a fan.
Yeah. The big thing is the big thing is he's back. He has signed his 1-year deal. He is here to stay for this season. So yeah, I feel great. I'm wearing my shirt right now. So, but funny enough, he's going to be number 8, not number 28. So
he switched his number.
Yeah, he's switching his number this season. He said he was going to switch it last season, and then he ended up not doing it. But it's like official this year. He's doing it. Number 28 is currently held by corner David Long. David Long. So, and Josh Jacobs has number 8. So That'll be different to see, but it'll probably be quick to get used to. That was his college number. So how do I feel? I feel great. I feel fantastic. This was the missing piece to me. Any other missing piece out there is somebody that's not on this team right now, But as far as this season, what we expect for this team, Jacobs was the guy that we needed to get in there, and I was pretty confident. I think you asked me in the last episode, like, what you really think that Jacobs will be there week 1, and I was like, I'm pretty sure. Like, I feel confident about it, but if he doesn't, I'll probably start getting worried. But I just didn't foresee him missing more than week 1, and here we are. It's preseason week 3. We got now 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks until week 1. It's the perfect timing for him to do this. He can come in now and practice as if it's time to get ready for the Broncos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Amin is sharing his thoughts. I didn't even know T. Higgins switched his number. What was he, like number 88 before, or
he was 85, and I think now he's 5. Yeah.
So, it's definitely interesting how the rule change that the NFL implemented for the numbers, that certain players can wear like single digit numbers now, or I don't know if it's like they adjusted who can be eligible, to catch a pass based on the number. But I definitely have noticed in the past couple of years, a lot more players have switched their numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think a lot of guys in college would have single digit numbers or even numbers that are like really off kilter compared to the NFL. You see linebackers in 50s. You would expect quarterbacks quarterback's a little different, but Teddy Bridgewater is the weird one. And for me, a good example is like Aiden O'Connell getting the number 4. It's like, dude, really? Like, why the fuck? Just after Derek Carr gets let go. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because Marcus Epps, safety, is now number 1. Number 2, I might be stupid. I'm pretty sure that's Daniel Carlson. Number 3, that's DeAndre Carter, wide receiver. Number 4 was up for grabs. Number 5, Divine Diablo. Number 6, I want to say it's AJ Cole. He might be 9. I'm not sure. Number 7. Number 8. That's Josh Jacobs.
Dude, I was like, you just said it.
Wake up. Yeah. Number 9, first round pick, Tyree Wilson. Right. You keep going 10 through 19. These are the quarterback numbers. That's what it used to be. It's just quarterbacks, and you could make a wide receiver in the teens. But so now it's like all we had available was like 14 and 4, and it was like, let's just give O'Connell 4. I think Chase Garbers is 14. So yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't think they're going to retire Carr's number. And
no, it just, some people were kind of sensitive about it and like, whoa, really? What the fuck? The reason why is because this rule change. If it weren't for the rule change, he'd be like number 3. or whatever he was in college, but it was taken. So,
And then also, too, I don't know if the Raiders have the same dilemma that the 49ers are facing right now, but the 49ers do not have enough numbers to give. Like, they have way too many retired numbers.
oh, yeah, the Raiders, I don't think they retire numbers. I mean, the closest you could get to that is Jim Otto, but that's 00. Like, nobody wears that anymore.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see like maybe a solution later down the line where maybe players don't have their numbers retired anymore, but if you wear that jersey number, there's some sort of way to honor that player. Like, let's just say, I mean, the jersey is already retired, and I don't think they would unretire, already existing retired jerseys. But imagine somebody wearing number 16 for the 49ers and they have a Joe Montana patch.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, imagine, like, right now, Aaron Rodgers, he's got number 8, and, like, Joe Namath, like, signed off on it. Like, yeah, it's good, even though it was retired. Like, imagine if you had a Namath patch. That'd be cool. And then, like, someday if they do number 8 again, it could be like, let's just say Aaron Rodgers wins them Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl.
I don't know. And then you have Namath
and Rodgers. Dude, that would be so fucking cool. It would be like,
that'd be cool.
Like sort of like, military badges. And then like it really like sort of, I guess celebrates the history of the team and, the real, I guess the legends that wore it previously.
Yeah.
You should be proud to wear the number that somebody else wore.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. I also love when teams have like a ring of honor in their stadium. I think that's always really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But to get back to Jacobs, just the entire time, well, not the entire time, but you had the deadline, and then the deadline went and passed. They couldn't do a long-term deal anymore. And it was like, okay, now it feels a little less like optimistic, but a day or two after that deadline passed, Saquon Barkley signed an updated deal with the Giants. And like, the idea was, Barkley and Jacobs are going to hold out until week 1 for sure. And then again, one day later, Barkley signs and he only gets like $1 million over the value of the franchise tender, right? Franchise tender is worth $10.091 million. Saquon Barkley got a 1-year deal worth up to $11 million. He gets a little signing bonus and, a little bit of incentives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once I saw that, I was like, that's it. That's what you do. That's what the Raiders do with Josh Jacobs. Tack on $1 million if you have to. Tack on 2, but make it incentive-based and give him a signing bonus and make it worth more than the franchise tag. That's all you have to do. Because now he can't get more than a 1-year deal unless you trade him. And even then, I don't even know if he can or not. So, and that's what they did. So, just to kind of go a little further on Saquon, this is per ESPN. Saquon's $11 million cash value now ranks 4th among running backs in 2023, behind Derrick Henry at $16.4 million, Nick Chubb at $14.9 million, and now Josh Jacobs at 12. I don't know where McCaffrey falls in that. I thought he was one of the highest paid guys, but this is just in 2023, so maybe his average kind of goes over the place. But I think that's right where Jacobs should be. He's the defending rushing champ. I wouldn't be shocked if like he wanted to be the highest paid guy, but he even said on Twitter that that's not what he was going for. He just wanted
to be deal. Fair. He wanted to be fairly compensated. Also, one thing I want to say, you were sort of comparing Jacobs to other running backs that are sort of at the top, and you mentioned McCaffrey. I think Amin the Dream poses a very interesting question that I would love to hear your answer for. Mike, do you believe that Josh Jacobs is the best running back in the league? And do you think that he is better than McCaffrey?
I think at the end of the day, McCaffrey's probably the best running back in football, if I'm being really honest. I think he's the best all around running back because Derrick Henry's not the best all around running back. Like that goes to McCaffrey over Derrick Henry. Um, Jacobs did a hell of a job catching the ball last season, but I mean, fuck. I mean, he ran the fuck out of the ball. He was kind of the offense last year. Besides Derek Carr throwing deep to Devontae, you know.
Mhm.
I have a lot of respect for Nick Chubb, but he doesn't usually catch the ball. And in recent years, he's had
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, you know, kind of spelling him. So I think if I had to really say who the best running back in football is, I would probably say McCaffrey like 9 times out of 10. Just these 4 names with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb and Jacobs and Saquon. I would give it to McCaffrey.
I would say McCaffrey's probably the most skilled running back. I don't know if I could appoint him as he definitely to me is not the best runner in between the tackles in the NFL. I think of guys like Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, even Josh Jacobs. Like he's a bell cow, and I mean McCaffrey's just used a little bit different. So you could argue, I mean, which style of running back you would like better, but I think that the dynamic that McCaffrey adds to any offense is like you really have to account for the running back. It makes it harder for the defense on passing downs because you have to account for another receiver practically. Another deadly receiver. It's not just like McCaffrey can run any type of route. His dad played wide receiver in the NFL, and he has I want to say he might have even played receiver at some point. So,
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, like in between the tackles. Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, dude, Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb are just different, you know. And Jacobs too last season, like he fucking brings it, man. And I'd say of those 3 guys, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and Jacobs, I think Jacobs is the most versatile of those 3. But I think as far as pure runners, I would give it to Nick Chubb. I think Derrick Henry's very downhill, you know. I mean, and he cuts outside, and once he starts going, like, good luck. It's tough. They're all different in their own right, including McCaffrey and even Saquon Barkley. I think I don't really look at Saquon Barkley because I think Joel. I think Saquon gets too many. Like he gets stuffed too much, you know. His yards per carry isn't very impressive, and that was Jacobs up until last season too. So Nick Chubb, I mean, he averages over 5 yards a carry. I think if it were me, if you had to ask me, like, it's between Nick Chubb and McCaffrey, but I can't talk about that without talking about Derrick Henry as well.
You know what? You bring up a good point. I would say like the best in between the tackle runner, I would say, is probably Nick Chubb. And that's, I mean, he doesn't provide the passing down element that the pass catching element that some of the other running backs have provided. And yet he is still like at the top of his craft because he's phenomenal in between the tackles. So one slight comment that I wanted to, I guess, advocate for Derrick Henry for when you said that Jacobs was more versatile than all those players. Does in Derrick Henry's defense, does Josh Jacobs have a passing touchdown in his career? Because I think Derrick Henry does.
I'm sure Derrick Henry does. I don't.
I mean, not saying Jacobs
does.
couldn't do that. Like yeah. I'm not over here saying that I would rather have Derrick Henry over Josh Jacobs or one way or the other. I'm just playing devil's advocate over here.
Honestly, dude, Derrick Henry, like, he's been so fucking dominant. It's not even funny. I actually probably should think more strongly about him because actually I was kind of thinking like when I said more versatile, I mean like Jacobs is downhill. He will run through you, but he will also evade you, and he's very elusive at the same time. Like I don't think Derrick Henry's very elusive in the sense of like juke. He's more of like he'll break tackles, and maybe he's a little elusive in that sense as well, where he can find his own way of breaking a tackle or evading a tackle without juking, you know. But my last point about Jacobs, Dave Ziegler has been on record, saying that he wants to get Jacobs on a long-term deal, and I think I now know why. I want to say Ziegler said the idea is to franchise tag him this year, and then next year he gets the long-term deal. And that might not make sense, but due to the new contract that Jacobs just signed, and I don't really know what causes this, I'm assuming the higher your pay is in the previous season, if you get franchise tagged again, it goes up. So now that he's at $12 million, if he gets franchise tagged again next season, it will likely be worth more than $14 million. So do the Raiders really want to franchise tag him at that price rather than $10 million? I'm not sure. I think they would rather give him a 3 to 4 year deal where you can maybe backload or, I mean, that's probably not wise, but you can mess with the money to where it's a smaller cap hit than $14 million. So I think if he's going to get a long-term deal, it's going to be this next offseason. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Let's get to some comments, and then we could probably move on to recapping the Raiders versus Cowboys preseason game. Yep. So Amin said, "Not a bad idea, Josh." I think he's talking about the patches on the jerseys, but I feel like you wouldn't just hand that number to anybody. It would have to be somebody special, if that makes sense. Yeah, I could definitely see that, because I think the Cowboys sort of already do that. When CeeDee Lamb was a rookie, I think Jerry Jones wanted CeeDee Lamb to wear number 88.
Yeah, like handpicked it.
Yeah, he handpicked it. So
yeah. Well, that's kind of how the Raiders treat 24. They don't just give. Well, they gave 24 to somebody recently.
Marshawn Lynch.
No.
That was a couple years ago.
That was cool. There was like a corner, like a rookie corner or some shit, and I was like, well, I might be thinking of Jonathan Abram, honestly. But I feel like there was somebody else too, where I was like, this motherfucker shouldn't be 24. Mm-hmm. It might have been David Long, who's now 28. Yeah, it was David Long. I was like, just a free agent from the Rams, random corner. Here's 24, and then Marcus Peter comes in, and now he's 24. David Long gets Jacobs' old number. Anyways, as far as this comment, I mean that's what the Jets did with Aaron Rodgers. I think I do agree. I think you can retire numbers, but it should be optional to bring them back if like you bring in a special player and they want to like represent that number or something like that, and they can get a patch for it. Like that would be sick.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see. I feel like all the numbers that are retired right now should stay retired, because maybe you open the door for legends who would be open to having their jersey worn again. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you already made that commitment to honor that player in that way. You should probably keep it that way instead of backtracking. And then just going forward, everybody else, it's like, there's a patch. Or I guess you just sort of remove the whole retired number thing and go forward with the patches, because I don't think it's a bad idea. But we are going to hit a point one day where I don't know if they have to introduce letters into the numbers. Holding offense number 6Z.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing about Rodgers getting Namath's number is that Namath was alive to okay it. Mm-hmm. Like if he wasn't alive, I don't think the Jets do it.
Is Namath, is his number technically retired and they sought permission?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Is that you?
Not me.
It's a weird sounding dog. I mean, the Dream says Jacobs was phenomenal last year. He won some football games for the Raiders last year with some stellar performances, like the Seahawks game, for example. Yeah, that long run against the Seahawks. I mean, it definitely helped the 49ers out too. So we thank you. We thank you, Raider Nation. This is definitely, it meant a lot to us. We don't like the Seahawks over here. I mean, the Dream says, "Are you worried at all about Jimmy being able to feed the ball to Davante?"
I'm not too worried. I mean, I think it's more a matter of will McDaniels like get the right route for Davante, or design the right play for Davante. That's debatable. I mean, if it's a pass play and Davante's running a route, he has a pretty high likelihood of getting open. I'm not too worried about Jimmy feeding or not being able to feed Davante. I guess I'm more worried about how often will they pass versus run. The only thing I'm actually worried about, I should say, is how often will they throw the ball deep? Because it's not going to be nearly as much as last season. Davante Adams isn't going to be scoring those 60-yard touchdowns. He will, but not nearly.
Unless he beats the corner after he has the ball in his hand.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, it could be. I just don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to consistently get the ball downfield, the way that Derek Carr was. I definitely would bet against that happening. Right. But Jimmy right now is building a rapport with Davante over the offseason, and I think Josh McDaniels is probably drawing up an offense that will work for Jimmy and Davante. And if the season starts to go in the tank and Jimmy's not able to keep up with Davante's talent, I think Aiden O'Connell is just going to come right in. And Aiden O'Connell is showing that he is able to push the ball downfield, at least more than Garoppolo.
Yeah, maybe. I think how do I say this? I'm interested to see how much Jacobs runs the ball this season, because they overworked the shit out of him last year. And again, if they really do want to sign him to a long-term deal, it wouldn't be wise to run him over 300 times again. So if that's the case, if they don't do that, it's either we're going to see a lot more of Zamir White and Amir Abdullah, or Jimmy G's going to pass the ball more than he ever has. And historically, Jimmy G has never been that guy to throw the ball and rack up like 4,000 yards. He's not that guy. Could he be? Maybe. I don't know. I think
I don't see it that way with Jacobs.
What do you mean?
I mean, he's only under contract this year. The Raiders, if they want, I mean, all right, last year was like the end of Jacobs' deal, right?
Yeah.
And what did they show that they did? They ran him. And luckily, Josh Jacobs was able to stay on his feet. But when you have a player that's on a contract year, one, they're playing harder because they want to earn that next contract. And then two, if you're the team, I mean, do you really want to give a contract to a player whose best years might be behind him? Like, no. Like, you have to use them with no – I mean, teams have typically shown that they'll use those players with no fear. And if they get hurt, they won't get paid. I mean, that's just simple as that, especially at the running back position. So yeah. I don't know if they're like, all right, we're going to ease him in this offense. I think if they would have done, if they were planning on doing that, they would have broke him off and given him the long-term contract already. Now it's like if Josh Jacobs gets a massive injury, they can move off from him. They're not tied to that. Because why would they give him a worked back workload and then work him in when he's already paid, and he can decide, oh, you know what? I'm actually not down for that.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I just I don't know. Jacobs is the type of guy that he's gonna work hard and he's gonna do what he needs to do to
Well,
earn as much
I'm
as he
not
can.
saying that Jacobs isn't going to work hard. What I'm saying is that the team has no obligation to protect him. They
Yeah, no,
have to
I
use
know.
him because he might not even be here next year.
Right. I get that. It's just I think if he is now in the long term plan, I wouldn't run him 300 times. I would run him 250 times. I think he
If
ran
he
like
was in the
350
long
times.
term, if he was in the long term plan, they would have signed him to a long term contract already. They left it open so they can move off from him if something bad happens, or if they change their mind, or if
It's
somebody else becomes available.
it's very possible for sure. I don't know. We'll see in a
Yeah,
year. I
because
just
I mean, it would be stupid if he's in their long term plan and they're deciding, hey, you know what? Uh, let's give you the option to explore to explore a new contract with another team. That doesn't happen next year.
what do you mean?
Next year,
As in he hits free agency or
he hits free agency or whatever, decides he doesn't want to
they
play for the Raiders. I mean,
they
they could
wouldn't
franchise
let
tag
him.
him again.
They would franchise tag him. It'd be at $14 million, and then they would say, all right, let's turn this into a 3 or 4 year deal worth around $14 million, maybe 13 per year. Maybe the first year is 14, right? And then it slowly goes down. I don't know. I we'll see. We'll see. You
Mhm.
make a great point because yeah, I mean, I agree. That's usually how running backs are used, especially on a contract year. That's what they did to Jacobs. I agree. Um, I don't know. I just think you see what he did last year, and if Ziegler is telling the truth that he's in their long term plans and they want to get a long term deal with him, I could see his usage changing. You know, um, and of course, in the essence of answering this question, I could see where if that does happen, that could lead to more passes going Devontae's way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it really depends on how the games play out for the Raiders, and I feel like we don't know enough about this Raiders team yet. I didn't get a chance to watch the game today, but I know you had the opportunity to watch it.
Mm.
And we're gonna talk about it in a second, but we're gonna take some comments.
One more thing, just to also add on to this, the only other thing that would affect Devontae, this is obvious, but Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow. I expect this to be a very West Coast, short dink and dunk passing offense. If that's the case, that's not always going to be Devontae. That's going to very much be Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers as well, which is why
Mm-hmm.
they're on the team and that's why they're getting paid pretty well, both of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
but Devontae is the highest paid guy, I think, on the offense. So he should be getting fed quite a bit. So, anyways.
Joel says, I feel like running backs are top dog is really year to year.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming that you mean that there's a different running back at top dog each year.
yeah. Like 2 years ago it was Henry. Last year maybe it was McCaffrey or whoever, and then last year maybe
Last year was
Jacobs. So yeah, sorry, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Amin says he had a great rookie year. Then I think he had a season where he was injured. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Joel provided the context that Josh Jacobs played through injury all throughout his career and hasn't missed any games or many games in his career.
His rookie year, he played very, very well. I was super excited about him. And then like week 8, he played the Packers, and he delivered a fucking hit to this safety that was so beautiful. Oh my god, dude! But in the process, I think he popped his shoulder out of place.
Mhm.
And he played through that shit like the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think I remember that. But speaking of safeties and hitting, Jonathan Abram did wear number 24, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, Joel also adds onto it that the Raiders gave 24 to David Long.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see here. Looking at comments. Zamir White hasn't shown any promise. But yeah, it would be wise to give him less touches. I mean, I kind of feel like, yeah, you want to keep your guys healthy, but you should, if he's in your long-term plan, lock him up now because the price is only going to go up. If Jacobs shows that he balls out this year, the price is going to go up. And if Jacobs feels like he's being undervalued, underused, he's not going to be happy here.
Yeah. I tend to agree. Yeah. I think yeah, I mean, as far as Zamir White, I feel like we haven't seen him really run much behind a starting offensive line. So I'm curious how that would go because I think Zamir White has a lot of juice to him. But yeah, I'd rather see Jacobs on the field.
Yeah, I think Jacobs is clearly the better running back, but I feel like I do sort of have the mindset because I played offensive line and just sort of like from watching film, a running back can only go as far as the offensive line will take them. So I think that Zamir White, maybe the difference would be a couple hundred yards between him and Jacobs in terms of like actually being able to pound it out of the defense, right? Like, we're talking about like wearing down a defense during a game, fighting for the extra yards. I think Jacobs is clearly the better player, but like Mike said, Zamir White hasn't played with the starting offensive line. And Joel says he wasn't in their long-term plans once they didn't pick up his fifth-year option at $8 million. That is true. Why didn't they pick him up? They could have had him for cheaper.
I can tell you why.
Because Dave Ziegler came in and it was a new coach.
Yeah, it's a brand new regime. Why would you promise a running back another season if the past few seasons he hasn't been like, a top 5 running back, let's say, and you don't know how he's going to play in your system? So then you promise him $8 million, which is probably also an $8 million cap hit the following season, which would have been this year, right? Yeah, this year. So, I mean, in hindsight, it's like, damn it, why didn't they do that? But, okay, let's say Josh Jacobs plays exactly the same. Is he happy right now on $8 million? Fuck no. Right? Now he's still holding out, and then they probably still give him $12 million. It didn't shock me when they declined his 5th-year option solely because they had just come in and they were just starting to identify this team and figure out this roster. And the only way to do that is to go through a season, right? That's why they had Derek Carr. That's why they traded for Devontae Adams. They signed Chandler Jones because they're coming off a playoff berth. And they said, well, we could do it. I think we can go in here and win some games and hopefully get to the playoffs again with Derek Carr at quarterback. Sure. And then they don't do that. And now Derek Carr's the same. But Jacobs is still here.
I think you provided excellent context as to why he wasn't in their long-term plans when they first got here. But now that they are here, they could have signed Jacobs to a longer deal than just 1 year. And I think Jacobs is looking for that stability in his contract. I think he probably wants around the same money that he's getting now for each year, and it probably going up slightly every single season. But I think that maybe McDaniels just wants to see if Jacobs can do it one more time, and then they'll break him off. But I mean, as of right now, there is nothing besides speculation holding Jacobs to the Raiders the next couple of years.
I think the reason why Jacobs is being treated the way he is by this regime is because of the position he plays, period. If Jacobs let's say Jacobs is the third best player at his position. If he was a right tackle, if he was a defensive end, if he was a defensive tackle, corner, probably even a safety, probably a linebacker, probably any other position, he'd have a 4-year deal right now. Guaranteed. Mm-hmm. That's just the market of the running back right now, because it's just common for these running backs to get hurt, like Saquon has multiple times before. All it takes is one play for these guys that literally touch the rock 300 times and get tackled by a fuckload of men that are.
Pause.
Dude, we gotta talk about Justin Fields. Can you play it?
Okay, yeah, I'll play it.
Search it up, dude. That shit's so funny.
And then I'll let you wrap up your thought, and then
we'll get into the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not wise as far as roster construction and team building, financially, to give a running back a long-term deal unless you know he can make a massive difference, like a Derrick Henry, a Nick Chubb, a Christian McCaffrey. Last season, he proved he can make a massive difference. So maybe this year is like the big trial, and if he does it again, you're staying, dude.
Are you able to see?
Yeah.
I felt like I was down, and then I just felt a 300-pound guy, coming back. So I'm like, well, pause. But
oh man, that's good.
Oh my god, dude! Have we talked about that on the podcast yet?
No, we haven't.
Oh my god, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard, from a player at a press conference. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh my gosh, what a fuck up! I felt a 340-pound man come on my back.
Pause.
Whoa. Pause. Like he had to do it. He was like, oh no, pause, wait. Oh, dude.
I think the fact that he said that brought more attention to it.
Oh, way more, because he could have just been like, anyways, but I have to imagine the locker room is just clowning him. Not in like a disrespectful way, but just like, yeah, I'm not going to go any further. That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Joel says, yeah, at the same time, I'm happy that our GM took a stance in a way, because our old GM would have gave Jacobs a 5-year, $100 million contract.
Essentially,
referring to Mike Mayock.
Yeah. That's why I think Hunter Renfrow had all those rumors about him potentially getting traded. I mean, for all we know, tomorrow he could get traded still, because he's getting paid a lot for a guy that missed like 8 weeks last season. And right now he might be missing practice again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but that's just something that this regime isn't going to take lightly. That's why Darren Waller got traded. And if we see a lot of promise from Tyree Wilson, which we'll talk about in about 2 minutes, I wouldn't expect to see Chandler Jones after this season, because he's missing a lot of practice right now, and he was subpar last season. We'll see how he does this year, but anyways.